Part 32. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 311. A period of life in which one was in danger of losing one's future and hiding from place to place was so painful. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. At this moment, he seemed to be reliving that period of time. There was no guarantee, and there would be no tomorrow after today. Thinking of this, a trace of inexplicable anger appeared in his eyes. Why should I live like this? I am no longer the person I used to be. I already have power. Thinking of this, the energy of Aoki Isao in his body kept running. A hazy green light burst out from his body. At this moment, he was like a green statue, and his arms turned a light green. Facing the oncoming claws of the vengeful spirit, he did not dodge this time. Facing the challenge, his fists kept blasting out like a machine gun. Bang 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 bang. The sound of collision and explosion sounded in the void. The claws of the vengeful spirit made a sizzling sound under the countless green fists. In the end, the claws even began to become transparent and illusory, and exploded, turning into countless black smoke and disappearing. The vengeful spirit also looked at Brandy with a blank face. His hands had been blown to pieces. He had no idea what was going on. A trace of confidence appeared on Brandy's face, and he looked at his hands in disbelief. He defeated the vengeful spirit with his own hands and smashed the opponent's arms. The vengeful spirit had no resistance to him now. Thinking of this, a trace of excitement appeared on his face, and then he took a step forward. Rushing towards the vengeful spirit who had lost his arms, countless fists fell. Bang 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 bang. There was another series of muffled sounds, and the chest of the vengeful spirit was hit by countless fists, and the whole thing exploded and turned into a ball of black smoke. In the end, the vengeful spirit died in the hands of Brandy without any power to fight back. At this time, Brandy looked at the ghost that disappeared into the smoke, and a glimmer of inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. It was a yearning for power and the confidence that came from the bottom of his heart. His whole temperament seemed to have changed a little, and he was no longer as timid as before. This is a transformation of human nature. Absinthe, hiding in the dark, pursed his lips when he saw this scene. This guy actually adapted so quickly. I want to see the joke for a while longer. Thinking of this, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Brandy at this time was no longer the Brandy he once knew. He has become a qualified ghost exorcist. Thinking of this, he slowly floated out from under the floor and looked at Brandy. Congratulations, you have completed the first task. Brandy's energy has been restrained, but his face is a little pale. Obviously, he consumed a lot in this battle. The first real battle in life, the waste of power is inevitable. Hearing the congratulations from Absinthe, Brandy rolled his eyes at him. I spent a gold coin. You guys are hiding too fast. Absinthe stretched out his right hand and scratched his ears, looking bored. Hee, if you can't even deal with such a low-level ghost, you don't have to stay in this business. I'm helping you to exercise your courage. Don't you even understand this? You really don't know how to be kind. Absinthe's words were righteous, and if Brandy didn't know his nature, he would have believed it. Humph, I don't believe your nonsense. I'll report it to the store manager when I go back. You didn't do anything. I want him not to deduct my money. Absinthe smiled at the corner of his mouth when he heard it. You want to deduct money from Joe Bai? I think you are looking for death. Go, and tell me. I'm waiting to see you laugh. Absinthe had a weird and twisted smile on his face, as if he thought of something funny. Looking at Absinthe's smile, Brandy suddenly came to his senses. He thought that if he really said that to the store manager, he would probably face the store manager's thunderous suppression next. He shuddered immediately. He had been with Lin Yi for so long, so he naturally knew Lin Yi's nature. Unless it was a necessary expense, anyone who wanted to take advantage of him would be courting death. As long as he seized the opportunity, Lin Yi would definitely screw you to death and make you regret daring to reach out to him. At this time, Absinthe looked at Brandy, think it through, then leave. The matter here has been resolved. Brandy glanced at Absinthe, wait a minute, I'll wake up the uncle and tell him before leaving. As he said that, he had already entered the room of Uncle Kangzang and his wife, and patted Uncle Kangzang a few times to wake him up. Uncle, uncle, wake up quickly. Uncle Kangzang woke up from his sleep, suddenly shook his body, and saw Brandy standing in front of his bed. His face was a little dazed, but he quickly woke up. Then he remembered what he had dreamed about just now. He saw his uncle chasing him, but he didn't know when a golden light suddenly appeared. Then his uncle turned into smoke in the light and disappeared. Then, he fell into a deep sleep until now. He looked at Brandy standing in front of the bed, with a trace of joy and hope on his face. Has it been solved? Brandy nodded and said, your uncle's problem has been solved by us. From today on, you can rest assured. Thinking of this, the vicissitudes of life, uncle immediately stood up from the bed and thanked Brandy. But Brandy held him down and said, you don't have to thank us. It's just that you have to complete the task after accepting it. After the work is done, I will leave with my companions first. You have a good rest. You have been exhausted these days. Hearing this, coupled with Brandy's obstruction, the middle-aged vicissitudes of life man did not insist. He just looked at Brandy, with a strong sense of gratitude on his face. Thank you very much. Brandy smiled, then I'm leaving, you have a good rest. As he said this, he had left the bedroom, closed the door, and left the family with Absinthe. It was already 11 o'clock in the middle of the night. The night of Honglian City was inexplicably like an empty city. If there were no street lights, this place would be very scary. Walking on the road, Brandy felt a vague fear. Absinthe on the side also looked serious. He could feel that in the darkness on both sides of the road, there were some strange eyes watching them. But because of their strength, they did not get close. Are there so many strange things in Honglian City? It's too dangerous at night. Thinking of this, Absinthe also felt a little pressure. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 312. This had happened to his world in the distant past. Countless resentful spirits breed, bringing devastating disasters to the world of the living. But that doesn't mean it's a good time for these wraiths. On the contrary, it was a more cruel era, and the same was true for the resentful spirits. Any weak vengeful spirit will be the food of the powerful vengeful spirits. And the reason why he appeared in the forest, far away from the center of the chaotic city, was because he didn't want to become someone else's prey. Now he discovered that this trend was forming in Honglian City. Damn it, I need to report to this guy Lin Yi when I get back. There is something wrong with the current situation. Naturally, Brandy didn't feel this. He just vaguely noticed a danger that kept appearing and disappearing nearby. At about 11:30, they returned to the Wanchai View. In the lobby, Lin Yizhen was enjoying the midnight snack he had made and the delicious barbecue. Brandy and the other two looked at Lin Yi enjoying his meal, their eyes widened. Just listen to Brandy's trembling voice, store manager, we are working hard outside, you are here enjoying the food. Are you worthy of our hard work? Lin Yi rolled his lips and rolled his eyes at him, of course I'm sorry. I'm the boss and you are employees. Isn't it natural for employees to work and enjoy the boss's enjoyment? When Brandy and Absinthe heard this, their eyes turned green with anger. At this time, Lin Yi waved to them, okay, stop talking nonsense. From the looks of it, your mission has been completed. Come over and eat together. Well, this is my special delicacy. When Brandy and Absinthe heard this, a smile appeared on their faces and they quickly sat over. Vodka, who was sitting opposite Lin Yi, entered the bar and brought them 2 plates of dishes and chopsticks. There were more than 200 skewers of various barbecued meats placed in front of them, and they were obviously preparing for a feast. Brandy looked at Lin Yi strangely. "Manager, I haven't seen you having midnight snack for a long time. Why are you so interested today?" Lin Yi chuckled and said, "Of course, our Wanchaiwu has a big event today. Besides me, Wanchaiwu finally has another person who can carry out tasks independently. That means the day has finally come for me to sit and count my money. Do you think I should celebrate?" Upon hearing this, Balin's expression froze and she was speechless for a long time. At this moment, Lin Yi took out 3 gold coins from his arms and placed them in front of him. "Okay, don't worry, this is your reward for this mission, 3 gold coins. As this is your first mission, I won't charge you for the absinthe. This is my support for you. But the formal charges will start next time." Brandy watched the dazzling gold coins appear in front of her eyes. He took the gold coin in his trembling hands and squeezed it hard. It seems to be confirming whether this gold coin is real or fake. With tears in his eyes, a thought flashed through his mind. After many years, I finally have my own gold coin. Oh my God, thank you for your blessing. Looking at Brandy, who was distracted, Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "Don't be intoxicated. Money is a beautiful future and full of dreams. Let's start enjoying life." As he spoke, his hands flew up to enjoy the barbecue skewers. His appetite has been increasing recently, and he wants to eat something every moment. While the 4 people in the Wanchaiwu were feasting, something was happening at number 99 Huaixia Street that affected the entire Honglian world. 2 figures appeared next to the ancient well in the courtyard of the ancient house. They were Donggong Taiyu and Tong Shenzi. At this time, Tong Shenzi was wearing a pitch-black Taoist robe with a black lotus embroidered on it, and the border of the lotus was made of a golden silk thread. Toji Ya Taiyu is wearing a black samurai uniform. According to Tong Shenzi, it is not that simple to cut off the dragon's veins. The dragon vein naturally has guardians, and these guardians are all kinds of resentful spirits inspired by the dragon vein. Under the baptism of dragon energy, these resentful spirits turned into dragon guards. Every dragon position is at least the level of human immortality, and there are not many ghosts and immortals among them. They have a tough battle ahead. If they want to cut off the dragon vein, even if it is a remaining dragon vein, they must reach the key point of the dragon vein. The dragon has reverse scales, which will kill you if you touch it. The reverse scale is the weakness of dragon vein. Although it is a weakness, it is the most heavily guarded place. Only there is it possible to use the dragon-slaying knife to cut off the dragon's veins. Donggong Taiyu was not too clear about the problems involved. He just heard Tong Shenzi's narration and had a general understanding in his heart. Now the arrow is on the string and he has to shoot. The 2 of them stood on the dry well and listened to Tong Shenzi's words. Dragon veins do not exist in the real material world, but in the mysterious spiritual world of time and space. If we want to cut off the dragon's veins, we must enter the spiritual world with our own souls. Only then can we do this. You have obtained the true method in the sect, and you have entered the realm of ghost immortality and cultivated your soul. Although your soul is still relatively weak, with the protection of the dragon-slaying sword, entering the spiritual world is not a problem. After our soul leaves the body later, the physical body will be in an empty state. In order to avoid accidents, I will seal the body and put it into the kinkan bag. The kinkan bag is a Tao method that can open up a small space and exist in the void. No one will be able to find our bodies by then. Our souls can be guaranteed to be absolutely safe, and we will have no worries about entering the spiritual world. Donggong Taiyu listened carefully to every word of Tong Shenzi to prevent himself from making any mistakes in the following process. Tong Shenzi looked at Donggong Taiyu with an unprecedented serious look. Your Majesty Prime Minister, there is one thing I want to make clear, and that is whether there is progress or retreat in the matter of slaying the dragon veins. Once it fails, the dragon's veins will bite back and the body will be shattered to pieces. It's not too late for you to give up now. When Donggong Taiyou heard this, a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ha, at this point, giving up is not something I would do. Now I'm kind of pushed into a corner. If I don't succeed, I'll be fine. Once I got off the field, my results were definitely not good. No need to say any more, let's set off. If we don't succeed, we will just be successful. Hearing this, Tang Shenzi stopped talking nonsense and said, let's get started. Prime Minister, come with me and leave your body. As he spoke, Tang Shenzi sat cross-legged, and his soul walked out of his body. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 313. Donggong Taiyou also sat cross-legged when he saw this scene. The next moment, a slightly illusory Donggong Taiyou walked out of his body. Tang Shenzi pinched the magic formula with his hand and waved the Taoist robe in his right hand towards their bodies. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Their bodies shrank rapidly as if in a mythological novel, and finally fell into his sleeves and disappeared. Donggong Taiyou could feel his body between being there and not being there, as if it existed in some mysterious place. At this time, Tang Shenzi looked at Donggong Taiyou and said, Prime Minister, please hold the dragon-slashing sword and follow me into the spiritual world and time and space. The dragon-slashing sword was stuck in the ground at this time, and Donggong Taiyou stretched out his hand and grabbed it. The moment he held the handle of the sword, the dragon-slashing sword seemed to come alive. A black real dragon spread out from the hilt, along his arm, and rushed into Donggong Taiyou's soul. At this time, there was a faint dragon energy in Donggong Taiyou's body. After seeing the dragon energy, the black dragon seemed to see something delicious, and suddenly swallowed the dragon energy. Boom! A thunderous sound sounded in the sky, and in a moment, the entire Honglian city was shrouded in endless dark clouds. A trace of red dragon pattern appeared on the black dragon's body, and its breath became ethereal and strange. Still struggling, it seemed that swallowing Donggong Taiyou's dragon energy was not a safe thing. After a long while, the little dragon turned into black and red. Donggong Taiyou himself could not see the scene, but Tang Shenzi beside him saw it clearly. There was a hint of joy in his eyes. It's done. The dragon energy causality in the dragon-slashing sword has been connected to the dragon energy of Donggong Taiyou. At this moment, Donggong Taiyou is the only one who has gathered the dragon energy of the previous dynasty and the Red Lotus Empire. With two kinds of dragon energy, he can enter the spiritual world and time and space at will, close to the dragon vein. And because he has the dragon vein breath of the Red Lotus Empire, he will not be rejected by the dragon vein. At most, there will be some suppression, but it is much better than me. Then use the power of the dragon vein of the previous dynasty to cut off the dragon vein of the Red Lotus Empire. The initial idea is indeed successful. The next step is to actually try it. Donggong Taiyou, I'm afraid you would never dream that you are just a tool in our hands. At this time, Donggong Taiyou slowly felt the power in his body. He could feel that as he held the dragon-slashing sword, his strength was greatly improved. His soul was becoming stronger at an unimaginable speed. At this moment, his eyes casually swept over Tang Shenzi. The Taoist who was originally unfathomable in his eyes did not seem so mysterious at this time. He could already see the limit and ceiling of the opponent's power. Is this the power of dragon energy? It's too strong. At this moment, he had a feeling that if he wanted, he could destroy the entire Red Lotus city with one blow. But he knew that this was just an illusion caused by the growing power. If he really fought, he might not be able to stop a rocket. But this feeling of power belonging to himself made him truly understand why so many people pursue individual power. That was the demand for a sense of security. With invincible power, one could naturally ignore the violence that threatened personal safety. In the dimness, he seemed to understand something. The power of the organization is reflected in the class. I have already stepped into the position of Prime Minister, which is already the highest position in the class. And the power of cultivation is reflected in the individual. My current power is also constantly moving towards the highest level. If I can ascend to the highest class with the power of the individual and the power of the organization at the same time, then I will no longer have any flaws. Thinking of this, he had an expectation in his eyes, maybe this is the best era. For thousands of years, the eternal top ruler, the Red Lotus world will all be under my feet. Maybe after this time, I will try to restore the imperial system. The emergence of power belonging to individuals will inevitably lead to a high concentration of power. In the future, it will no longer be people who depend on the system, but the system that depends on power. This is the most perfect ruling structure. At this moment, he seemed to understand something, and Dong Gong Taiyu was filled with a mysterious aura. This change immediately made Tang Shenzi, who was standing beside him, condense his invisibility, and he naturally felt the change of Dong Gong Taiyu. This was a change he had never seen before, which made him look sideways. At this time, his eyes were deep, looking into the soul of Dong Gong Taiyu. He saw that Dong Gong Taiyu's soul was resonating with the dragon energy, producing a hazy fusion. It seemed that Dong Gong Taiyu's soul was changing into a state between dragon energy and non-dragon energy. It also possessed the characteristics of dragon energy and the characteristics of the soul of a cultivator. His pupils shrank, and he thought of an impossible guess. Could it be that he wants to master the power of dragon energy and cultivation at the same time and become an immortal emperor? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt a sense of horror. This is something that people in countless eras have tried. Especially those ancient emperors, the masters of destiny, how could they be willing to have a lifespan of less than 100 years? In order to achieve immortality, they can use all means, and practicing the immortal way is also something they have done before. But among the thousands of great ways, the dragon energy is the most unique and cannot accommodate any other power. There was once a supreme master who even ignored the power of the organization. In a chaotic world, he collected countless soldiers and established a powerful dynasty, wanting to ascend the throne and become the eternal master. But on the day he boarded the plane, his power conflicted with the dragon energy and dragon veins, and the final result was that he was blown to pieces on the spot, and his dynasty disappeared. The result was chaos on the earth, which lasted for hundreds of years again until a heroic monarch appeared and ended the chaos. The cultivation world has already tried countless methods to become the eternal master, combining the power of the immortal way and the organization, but it was useless. At this time, he suddenly saw changes in Dong Gong Taiyu's body, and he had an idea in his mind. Could it be that the so-called prime minister system of this era, because of the scarcity of dragon energy, has created an opportunity for cultivation and dragon energy to coexist? Only in this way can he realize the possibility of integrating dragon energy and immortality. Tang Shenzi is extremely talented. He has read countless ancient records and various experimental scriptures. In the Kishin Dao section, he immediately analyzed Dong Gong Taiyu's current state after seeing the details. At this time, a shadow rose in his heart. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 314. Now that the world has changed drastically, countless geniuses have risen. How many geniuses similar to the founders of the major sects will be born? One Dong Gong Taiyu has this talent and understanding. If he hadn't entered the sect's layout, maybe one day in the future, he could really become the king of eternity. But now that I have discovered this secret, I must never allow him to succeed. This important discovery must be listed as the sect's highest research topic. Once completed, it will bring countless benefits to the sect, and my Kishin Deo sect will inevitably become the best of all sections. And as a discoverer, maybe I have to think carefully about becoming this kind of existence. In an instant, Tongshenzi has thought of a lot. He can almost see how Kishin Deo sect will be against the sky in the future, sweeping across the entire Red Lotus realm, and it is not impossible to unify the world alone. Remember the Prime Minister's system. He took a deep look at Donggong Taiyu, who had awakened from his thoughts at this time. Tongshenzi smiled slightly. It seems that the Prime Minister has understood something. Congratulations. Donggong Taiyu smiled slightly. It seems that God is helping me again, allowing me to improve my cultivation at this critical moment. Let's go, I can't wait any longer, I want to solve all these problems at once. Donggong Taiyu's face showed a confident smile. After seeing through Tongshenzi's cultivation, he no longer had any obstacles in his heart. If Tongshenzi made any reckless moves, he could take him down with one hand. Without fear in his heart, his confidence naturally soared. Tongshenzi saw it clearly and naturally understood Donggong Taiyu's thoughts. He smiled slightly and said to Donggong Taiyu, "Please follow me." As soon as the voice fell, he had already stepped into the dry well. In the process of falling, his hands formed seals, and a faint light spread out from his hands, quickly filling the entire ancient well. Donggong Taiyu didn't think about anything else, and took a step forward and followed. There was a dense resentment under the dry well, accompanied by the magic formula that Tongshenzi was pinching. An illusory world appeared in the resentment under the dry well. Donggong Taiyu and Tongshenzi sank into the illusory world in an instant and disappeared. At this time, an invisible figure flashed and followed them into it. Neither Tongshenzi nor Donggong Taiyu noticed the existence of the other. Across the way was a red world, filled with endless red light. It looked like a huge red river across the sky and earth. Looking closely, it seemed to be in the shape of a dragon. But all this changed in Donggong Taiyu's eyes. At this time, it was a dark world, and he had an inexplicable rejection of this world in his heart. The black dragon in his body emitted a dark red light, covering his whole body. This dark red light seemed to allow him to avoid the suppression from the whole world. He did not see that Tongshenzi behind him was pinching a magic formula in his hand. This spell was vaguely reacting with the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. The result of the reaction was that Donggong Taiyu was blinded by his perception. He thought that his heart and this world were faintly repelling each other, but in fact, his heart and this world were faintly attracted. Tongshenzi saw a trace of solemnity on Donggong Taiyu's face, and a smile appeared in his eyes. "Okay, this way, you won't doubt it?" Looking at the winding river, they were above the river, and this space was about 10 kilometers long. The magnificent light enveloped the entire river, making them feel great pressure. At this time, every movement of Tongshenzi felt great pressure, as if he was squeezed by 100,000 tons of matter. Donggong Taiyu was much less suppressed, which was due to the dark red dragon energy radiance emanating from his body, which allowed him to reach a certain balance with this space. I only heard Tongshenzi say, "Prime Minister, in this spiritual world, is it all black?" Donggong Taiyu nodded and said, "Yes, what's going on?" Tongshenzi smiled and said, "This is because you are the Prime Minister of the Red Lotus Empire. The dragon energy you originally carried is completely repelled by this place. Black represents hostility and enemies. Originally, outsiders who came here would be greatly suppressed. Just like us practitioners, once we enter here, it is difficult to even move. But because you killed the Teju of the Deu dynasty through the method I performed, you have obtained the dragon energy of the previous dynasty and integrated it into yourself, so you have the same dragon energy as here. Because of this, you will not be suppressed too much here, so the final dragon slaying needs you to do it. You have the dragon energy of the Red Lotus Empire and the previous dynasty at the same time, and you have established a cause and effect with the previous dynasty and the Red Lotus Empire at the same time. Only with the cause and effect connection can it be possible to cut off the dragon vein. This is something only you can do, no one else can do it. Listening to Tongshenzi revealing all this, Dong Gong Taiyu finally understood why he wanted to kill the Taiju of the Deu dynasty and seize the other party's dragon energy. Everything was prepared to be able to move freely here and be qualified to cut off the dragon vein. All this made sense, and he understood it instantly, but he got one thing wrong. The reason why he was not suppressed here was because this was the place where the dragon vein of the Red Lotus Empire was transformed. He was the Prime Minister of the Red Lotus Empire, so he naturally carried the dragon energy here, and it was normal that he was not suppressed. But just like that, he could not hurt the dragon vein. Because his dragon energy came from the dragon vein, only the same dragon energy could hurt the dragon vein. And it must be another kind of dragon energy that was completely conflicting. He killed the Taiju of the Deu dynasty and absorbed the other party's Taiju dragon energy. The purpose was to forge a real dragon-slaying sword. Only in this way can the cause and effect of the death of one party be established due to the change of dynasties, and the possibility of killing the dragon vein can be completed. All of this is the result of the planning of the Nishan Deo sect and the Kishan Xie sect. But Dong Gong Taiyu was kept in the dark, and he had no idea what he was doing. It must be said that Tongshenzi's acting skills are really good, and he took all human factors into account. So Dong Gong Taiyu completely took the initiative to step into this trap. Tongshenzi said in a loud voice, "Prime Minister, I can only give you directions now, but I can't protect myself. Now I need you to protect me, so that we can reach the N-Island." Dong Gong Taiyu nodded lightly, "Don't worry, I understand, let's go." At this time, his self-confidence exploded, and the reason was very simple: Tongshenzi was no longer a danger to him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 315. Tongshenzi looked in one direction of the river, his body emitting a faint light, and slowly moved towards it. It can be seen that his movement was quite laborious, so the speed was very slow. The Prime Minister on the side frowned when he saw this scene. He flew up at once, grabbed Tongshenzi's arm with his left hand, and flew forward suddenly. Here he was basically not restricted by any restrictions, and his speed was exactly the same as outside. Tongshenzi showed a faint smile in his eyes, all of which was within his calculations. He calculated according to the Prime Minister's character. In such a place, in order to avoid more troubles, the other party would definitely not delay. First of all, Dong Gong Taiyu would definitely take the initiative to lead him forward to avoid accidents. The two moved forward in the direction pointed by Tongshenzi. In just over 10 minutes, they had advanced dozens of kilometers. Soon they saw a place emitting a strong black light. That was the bottom of the long river, where there was a conspicuous black substance. Of course, in Tongshenzi's eyes, it was a red glow, and in the eyes of the Prime Minister, it was pitch black. Tongshenzi smiled and said, "Prime Minister, we have found it. The place where the glow is the reverse scale, but there must be dragon guards guarding it. I will find a way to attract their attention later, you have to rush in as quickly as possible. In this dark depth, you will see a tiny real dragon made up of countless scales. That real dragon is the reverse scale, you have to kill it, and this dragon-slaying sword will absorb a lot of dragon energy and inject it into your body. All your troubles will be driven away in an instant, and the dragon energy will be absorbed by you. As the Prime Minister of the Red Lotus Empire who cut off the remaining dragon veins, you will get more dragon energy." Hearing this, the Prime Minister nodded, "Aren't you going down with me?" Tongshenzi had a very embarrassed smile on his face, and then he raised his left hand. It turned out that his left hand was becoming illusory without knowing when. A layer of light black air enveloped it, corroding his arm. Tongshenzi said, I can't get any closer. If I get any closer, I'm afraid I'll die. Seeing the abnormality of Tang Shenzi, the Prime Minister's face showed a trace of solemnity. The other party really did not lie to him. The dragon energy suppressed all the power of cultivation. Tang Shenzi couldn't even get close to the location of the reverse scale now. Everything the other party told him at the beginning was true and did not lie to him. It was not until this time that he slightly let go of the last worry in his heart. Tang Shenzi looked at him seriously. Prime Minister, I wish you good luck in martial arts, all efforts are for now. Complete the ultimate goal this time. Dong Gong Taiyou nodded, okay, you wait for me here. After completing this matter, I will definitely cooperate more deeply with your master. Tang Shenzi smiled gratefully, then I will lead the master, thank you Prime Minister. Prime Minister, wait for me to use my means to lure out those dragon guards. As he spoke, more than a dozen statues appeared in his hands. These statues were pitch black, but there was a trace of dragon energy in them. These statues were dragon energy puppets made by another sect that spent a lot of time. They were made of the bones of the emperors of the Great Yu dynasty, and each of them had the combat power of the human immortal level. All these plans are not just for their Kishin Dao sect and Nishin Xie sect. There are also some other sects on the same front that have unified planning and design. It is a very difficult task to cut off the dragon vein. Not only do you need to select the right people, but you also need to arrange each step reasonably to ensure that the plan goes on as scheduled. In this dragon vein, these cultivators have a hard time and almost no resistance. Once they enter here, facing the existence of the dragon guard puppet, it is like an egg hitting a stone, and they will definitely die. In order to avoid this situation, the dragon guard puppet was put on the agenda. The corpses of emperors of all dynasties naturally have some residual dragon energy. These puppets made from their corpses naturally have the ability to walk in the dragon energy. At this time, these puppets all have the breath of Dong Gong Taiyou. After following the Prime Minister for so long, Tang Shenzi naturally collected a lot of things from him to refine these dragon guard puppets. With the breath of Dong Gong Taiyou, these puppets will naturally have a certain degree of connection with Dong Gong Taiyou, and thus be protected by the dragon energy of the Red Lotus Empire. Let them move freely here, and at the same time, because of the original dragon energy of the previous dynasty in their bodies, they can kill these dragon guards, and they are also the best bait. This dragon spirit puppet is not a physical substance, but an invisible puppet made by extracting the dragon spirit from these corpses and combining it with the secret method of another sect. Seeing Tang Shenzi take out more than a dozen puppets, each of them was filled with a strong aura, which surprised Dong Gong Taiyou. What are these? Tang Shenzi smiled and said, these are special props prepared to attract dragon guards. They will rush to Nilan first. Attract those dragon guards. When the time comes, Prime Minister must seize the opportunity, these dragon guards will not last long. Seeing the well-prepared hands of Tang Shenzi, Xiang was also awed. Obviously, Tang Shenzi made a very thorough plan for this operation. Every link was taken into consideration, and a thought came to his mind. This Tang Shenzi is really good at doing things. Maybe I can dig him from the sect and really join my army. If Tang Shenzi knew what Dong Gong Taiyou was thinking at this time, he would definitely laugh at him. An ordinary man also wants to recruit him, a cultivator of immortality. Tang Shenzi looked at the Prime Minister and said with concentration, then let's start now. As soon as the voice fell, he pinched the magic formula in his hand, and the 10 dragon guard puppets quickly rushed towards the inverse scale. In just a few seconds, they had arrived less than 10 meters outside the inverse scale. The light generated by the inverse scale covered an area of hundreds of meters in radius. As soon as they came here, more than a dozen red lights rushed out from it. There were more than a dozen soldiers in armor, and only their eyes were exposed. Everything else was covered by the red armor. Each person was filled with powerful power, which could rival the peak of the immortal way. directly sniped at the dragon guard puppets that were rushing towards him. At this time, Tongshen's voice shouted in Donggong Taiyu's ear, "It's time." Donggong Taiyu did not hesitate at all, and mobilized his strength all over his body. In a flash, he turned into a meteor and rushed towards Nilan's location. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 316. I don't know if it was lucky or not, but there was no dragon guard to intercept him. He rushed into the light emitted by the reverse scale smoothly. At a distance of 100 meters, his speed was amazing, and he caught his target in an instant. A red dragon about several meters long was swimming in this area. Its body was extremely delicate, and every scale could be clearly seen, as if it was real. But it seemed to have no will, just swimming aimlessly in this area, as if there was some natural law. In Donggong Taiyu's eyes, this was a black real dragon, and the whole body was filled with pressure and rejection that made him uncomfortable. A thought flashed through his mind, is this the reverse scale of the dragon vein? Without any hesitation, he chopped off the head of the real dragon with a knife. At this moment, the real dragon seemed to feel some kind of danger, and looked at Donggong Taiyu. It was a supreme gaze, without any emotion, even without reason, only ruthlessness and coldness, looking down on everything from above. It slowly opened its mouth, and a red light gushed out of its mouth. Donggong Taiyu turned his body to avoid the light, and the next moment he was in front of the real dragon. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand slashed down with boundless light. Infinite darkness and alien dragon energy erupted at this moment. Crack! Donggong Taiyu felt as if he had cut off something, and his heart suddenly felt empty. Then a huge force came out of thin air and enveloped him in an instant. It was a great power in the dark. The next moment, the Prime Minister was horrified to find that his body was disappearing. Disappearing bit by bit, turning into nothingness. What's going on? What's going on? The feeling of death enveloped him, and in an instant he had figured out everything. At this time, the world in his eyes completely turned back to a red light. Looking at this bright red light, he immediately knew what was going on. I was deceived. Is everything a trap? This is not the remnant of the dragon vein of the previous dynasty. This is the dragon vein of the Red Lotus Empire. These sects want to use me to destroy the dragon vein of the Red Lotus Empire. After thinking about this, he immediately understood everything. What is the purchase of Yulian Mountain? What are the various unexpected events? They are all pretexts. The real purpose is to eliminate his vigilance and let himself step into this trap. At this moment, Donggong Taiyu, who has figured out everything, is extremely angry, and at the same time, he is deeply ashamed of his stupidity and greed. Everything is irreversible. While he is desperate, endless resentment rises in his heart. I hate it. I curse you, and you will never be reborn. I curse you, all your plans and all your hopes will be in vain. I curse you to be destroyed in the future under the backlash of heaven and earth. I curse you, even if I turn to ashes, my curse will bring you destruction. Countless curses burst out from the Prime Minister's heart. His body disappeared rapidly, and at this time he only had a head. There was boundless despair in his eyes. He knew that his curse was just the wail of the weak. The future had nothing to do with him anymore. He could even see that his Donggong family would be implicated because of this incident. Perhaps the entire Donggong family would disappear in history. At this moment, there was a loud bang in the dragon vein, and a huge hole appeared at the location of Donggong Taiyu's reverse scale. Countless dragon chi surged out of the hole. Donggong Taiyu's head also flowed out with the hole. His consciousness was already blurred, and only boundless resentment and obsession remained. In the process of this great change, the entire Red Lotus realm was affected. The sky, the earth, the ocean, and all over the world, violent disasters broke out, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Everything began to appear in just a moment. The dark and strange power appeared in every corner of the world at a denser speed. Mysterious organizations in the world have noticed the great changes in the world. They don't know what happened, except for those who are interested. At the same time, countless strange powers seemed to be attracted and gathered towards the remaining head of the Prime Minister. The head that was rapidly dissipating quickly stopped disappearing. Countless strange powers gathered on his head, allowing his remaining head to quickly recover and become substantial. At the same time, his body began to grow again, but at this time he had changed. His body was like a strange centipede, covered with countless amputated feet, sharp as sickles. Just looking at it makes people's scalps numb. On his face, his eyes were dark, revealing incomparable anger. Under the impact of dragon energy, he rolled towards a distant unknown land until he rushed out of the ground under the impact of dragon energy. Feeling the moonlight in the sky, he let out an angry wail. Roar! This is a shrill and strange roar, the sound shook 10 miles, and huge power permeated from his body. The body of more than 10 meters is as huge as a monster. His eyes looked towards the direction of Honglian City. He lay on the ground, swaying his body, and quickly approached there. Countless arthropod-like feet were trembling rapidly, and they looked like they were moving in a regular pattern like a precision machine, but this intensive phobia was enough to drive people crazy. Tongshenzi, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. The terrifying roars continued to burst out from his mouth, and he seemed to have some residual rationality. In the dragon vein, Tongshenzi still showed a smile on his face. He looked at the huge hole where the reverse scale was. The suppression on his body was weakened many times at this moment. He quickly approached there, and his eyes fell on the dragon-slaying sword floating in that area. At this time, there was a real dragon on the dragon-slaying sword, which was transformed by the rich dragon energy. Tongshenzi grabbed the dragon-slaying sword, and his heart was full of excitement. As long as he got the sword and used his secret method of seizing dragons, he could transform into a supreme power. Instantly break through his cultivation to a higher level of invincibility. And by that time, he would be a Hall Master level existence in the sect. Truly get rid of the current situation of being neither up nor down, and become the real power holder of the sect. As the planner and executor of the whole event, there are countless risks, but now it has finally come to the end. The final harvest under these countless risks is this dragon-slaying sword that has extracted the power of the reverse scale, as well as the huge benefits that can be seen in the future. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 317. Among the sect candidates in their area, he had managed to break out of the siege with his wisdom and ability. Now that it was finally time to reap the rewards, he couldn't hold back the excitement. It's finally done. Puff. Gently grabbing the dragon-slaying knife, the secret technique of seizing dragons was activated. The dragon in the knife instantly filled his palm, and soon power flowed into his body, making his face full of excitement. But the moment he absorbed some of his power, an invisible figure suddenly appeared and grabbed the dragon-slaying sword. The huge force instantly snatched the dragon-slaying sword from his hand. Tongshenzi was stunned at first, the power flow in his hand was cut off, and boundless anger broke out. Damn it, stay here. As he spoke, he had already unleashed boundless power, and his right hand was as dark as a jade stone. He suddenly slapped it in the direction where the invisible figure was escaping, and simultaneously formed a seal with his right hand. At this moment, the time and space in front of him froze. Under this blow, the ethereal figure raised a snow-white palm. In the center of the palm, a mysterious rune flashed, colliding with Tongshenzi's seal. Click. It was as if even space could not bear the collision of the two forces. At this moment, a huge hollow crack appeared. The illusory figure grabbed the dragon-slaying knife and rushed into it instantly with the help of the power of the Tongshenzi collision. How can Tongshenzi be tolerated? The results that I spent countless hours on were taken away by others. This is simply sworn hatred. In a flash, he followed, and a violent collision sounded across the cave. It was obvious that an unobservable battle was taking place there. At this time, the entire Red Lotus Empire was undergoing great changes. Countless dragon energy leaked and surged in all directions. Originally, the entire Red Lotus world was very peaceful and stable, but countless disasters occurred in an instant. Countless beasts are running wildly in the wilderness, seemingly looking for a safe place. A trace of strange power found some panicked animals. Under the erosion of strange power, these animals rapidly mutated. They become stronger, more ferocious, and more bloodthirsty. In this state, their aggressiveness increased a lot, and they even began to attack the surrounding human cities, villages, and towns in groups. And this is just the beginning. The corpses originally buried in many tombs have been invaded by strange forces. One after another, hideous corpses crawled out of the graves, and they transformed into something else entirely. After these corpses appeared, they did not move outward, but began to kill and devour each other. The black blood stained the graves one after another. Until there was a supreme roar from these tombs, it was the appearance of some powerful and strange existence. At this time, these corpses will stop fighting each other and quickly gather under the command of the powerful being born from this giant roar. An army of corpses is slowly taking shape, moving towards the nearby place where life gathers. Every city in the Red Lotus Empire, where humans gather, is facing huge dangers. If according to the normal plot, humans should be lambs to be slaughtered. But unfortunately, we are not in ancient times, and humans have the power of technology. These cities immediately noticed changes in the wild. The Prime Minister's office of the Red Lotus Empire was now in chaos. The Prime Minister disappeared, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Now that the situation was critical, a parliament was quickly convened. In the Red Lotus Empire Parliament Hall, the Deputy Prime Minister looked at everyone in the parliament and said seriously, "I just received news that monsters caused by the invasion of strange forces have appeared everywhere in the Red Lotus world. The specific reason is unknown. Now these monsters are attacking all the cities under the empire, and their numbers are overwhelming. The situation is very dangerous now. The Prime Minister is missing. According to the laws of the empire, I am now taking over and issuing orders on behalf of the Prime Minister. Mobilize the legions near each city, and focus on each city to eliminate all the strange creatures that appear in 4 weeks. All types of equipment, including heavy weapons, are allowed to be used to destroy all the creatures invaded by these strange forces at all costs. According to the research of our institute, the creatures invaded by strange forces are very difficult to kill, and they have the characteristic of continuous regeneration. Unless you are a strong martial artist who uses your energy to consume their strange power, it will be difficult to completely kill them. But there are only a few warriors in the empire who can master the essence, and it is difficult for them to play a major role on the battlefield. They are mainly responsible for protecting the interior of the city and sniping against those weird beings that are too powerful. Now activate the energy fields deployed in various major cities immediately. After the army defeats the lives invaded by these strange forces, neutralize and purify these strange forces. Inform people in villages and small towns to move closer to the nearest city. The Empire has entered level 1 combat readiness. Obviously the Empire seemed to have anticipated the situation and had made arrangements long ago. After the order was issued, it quickly spread through encrypted channels to all major cities in the Red Lotus realm. Soon the legions stationed around or inside the cities were dispatched. Countless gunshots sounded in various places in the Red Lotus realm. Any strange existence that appeared near the city would be instantly killed without leaving a trace. A mysterious energy field would cover an area of several kilometers around the city. All the strange creatures killed in this area would have their strange powers quickly dissolved. In addition to these changes began to appear in the famous mountains and holy places in the Red Lotus realm. Brilliant rays of light continued to rise and turned into pillars of heaven, covering an area of dozens of kilometers in radius. Figures walked out of these lights and strangled all the strange existences that appeared around these places. There were even countless creatures invaded by strange powers. After being enveloped by these golden lights, the strange powers in their bodies were quickly consumed and restored to their original state. All of this seemed to indicate that something unusual was happening. In those lights, one could vaguely see the shadows of palaces, Taoist temples, mountains, and lakes flickering in them. One after another, great auras continued to rise, making the entire Red Lotus realm seem to become extraordinary and holy at this moment. There are some mysterious places all over the world in the Red Lotus realm, where human organizations that have mastered strange powers have been affected by this change. They feel that the strange powers they have mastered are rapidly improving. Even some beings who were originally at the peak have seen the way forward. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 318. It must be said that this change has alarmed countless people. At this time in Honglian City, Lin Yi also had a solemn expression and stopped eating. He could naturally feel the great changes in the outside world, and he could even see it more clearly than anyone else. In his eyes, the entire Honglian city was shrouded in countless red lights. These lights diffused from the underground of Honglian city. It was a light that gathered the hopes of countless people, and it was so warm. But what puzzled him was that this warm light now exuded a sadness that was difficult to describe in words. What's going on? His eyes were full of incomprehension, and he had no idea what was going on. For the first time, he felt a danger of being out of control. And at this moment, the sky of the Honglian realm exploded with a brilliant light again. Energy fluctuations and spiritual explosions that were more terrifying than the Second World Change were appearing. The violent explosion was full of disordered chaos, and the sky above the entire Honglian realm became colorful at this moment. Lin Yi looked at the sky through the French window, and the light of the true destiny in his eyes kept flashing. It was a light that was difficult to describe in words. A great radiance that reached the extreme gave him a feeling that could not be described in words, that he was so insignificant. At this moment, he seemed to see the origin of the world, from which all living beings and the world were born. At the same time, countless streams of light poured down from the explosion. Like a raindrop waterfall, it fell towards the entire Red Lotus realm. Instantly, Lin Yi knew what it was. So many spiritual polymers fell. This is a good thing to accelerate cultivation, he took a breath. Thinking of this, he could no longer bear it and was about to push the door out. A summoning album appeared in his hand, leaving only absinthe to guard the store. His voice rang in the ears of vodka, brandy, and absinthe. Now you watch the store by yourselves. The underground maze is controlled by brandy. If there are beings from other worlds coming, do your best to kill them. The time was already 11:50 p.m., and it would be 12 o'clock in 10 minutes. He had a hunch that tonight would be a very restless night. Something is happening that affects the overall situation of the entire Red Lotus realm. However, all this has nothing to do with him for the time being. He now has only one goal. That is to harvest more spiritual polymers, a gift from heaven. He wants to quickly break through the current martial arts realm. The future seems to be becoming more and more troublesome, and time waits for no one. His eyes locked on the direction where the latest spiritual polymer fell, and his figure approached there like a phantom. The speed seal made him like a stream of light. This time, the sky above the Red Lotus city was densely packed, with at least hundreds of spiritual polymers falling, which was a huge fortune. At this time, not only him, but many people seemed to have noticed these falling spiritual polymers. For example, the mysterious Xingyuezi, Sakuramiya Shirley of the Sakuramiya family, some weird forces, or various masters on the martial arts side. Spiritual polymers are useful for almost everyone, not just limited to masters of cultivation. After the Second World Change, this has become an open secret. Tonight, in order to compete for these things, there will inevitably be fierce conflicts. At this time, there was an unprecedented solemnity in his eyes. His eyes locked onto the spiritual polymer falling from the sky, and he soon arrived at a small square nearby. After arriving here, his true destiny solution immediately locked onto a source emitting colorful brilliance. At this time, not only him, but another person had already arrived here. The man was filled with a strong weird aura, and it was obvious that he was a force on the weird side. After the other party saw Lin Yi, a trace of cold light appeared in his eyes. Without any words, the man had already rushed towards the direction of the spiritual polymer. Lin Yi naturally could not allow his opponent to take the lead, and the speed seal unfolded, turning into a stream of light and shadow, and also rushed there. The man looked at the rushing Lin Yi, and a trace of murderous intent appeared in his eyes. A strong weird power permeated his body, and instantly turned into dozens of pitch-black needles that enveloped Lin Yi. Facing the overwhelming attack, Lin Yi activated the root of his true destiny and transformed the technique into illusionary immortal Deo. At the same time, the speed seal technique was used in his left hand and the illusion technique in his right hand. 3 streamers of light took shape in an instant, spanning a distance of 10 meters, completely ignoring the dozens of black needles falling from the top of their heads. Bang, bang, bang. These needles directly pierced through the 3 figures and fell into the ground. The man was also stunned when he saw this scene. Obviously, he did not expect that his attack would be so easy to miss. At the same time, he instantly knew that these 3 figures were not real enemies. At this time, a figure appeared silently in front of the spiritual polymer and grabbed him in his hand. Lin Yi arrived at the scene before him. After grabbing the spiritual polymer, Lin Yi did not stop at all. He turned around and rushed towards the spiritual polymer falling from the sky in one direction. The figure of the strange child was left on the spot, and countless black smoke tentacles burst out instantly, covering the oncoming strange side people. Countless black smoke tentacles were like whips, splitting the air in mid-air, making a terrifying whistling sound. The weird person saw this attack and didn't dare to be careless at all. Countless black smoke gathered in front of him and turned into a metal wall, blocking the attack of the black smoke tentacles. Bang, bang, bang. Countless dents instantly covered the metal wall. Seeing this scene, the weird person's face changed drastically. So strong, the guy on the opposite side is definitely not inferior to me. And the owner of this black smoke tentacle is some kind of weird existence, controlled by the man just now. There is no point in fighting. Thinking of this, he did not continue to fight, but turned around and left here. His purpose was just to snatch the spiritual polymer. If he wasted time in the battle for the competition, it would be putting the cart before the horse. Although he lost this time, there are other spiritual polymers that can be seized, so he will not fight to the death here. And it is obvious that his opponent is a controlled weird existence, and there is no benefit regardless of winning or losing. This person also made a quick decision and immediately chose to give up and leave the battlefield directly. The strange child did not pursue him. The order he received was just to delay. If the other party retreated, he would chase Lin Yi. Through the strange child's eyes, Lin Yi naturally also noticed the choice of the strange person behind him. They are all smart people. At this time, rapid changes were taking place in his body, a fundamental change. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 319. The originally gaseous essence is turning into liquid at an astonishing speed after the spiritual polymer is integrated. He rushed towards the direction of the second falling spiritual polymer. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. In just 2 minutes, the essence in his body has been completely transformed into liquid. So fast, this spiritual polymer is simply amazing. It's so easy to condense the essence to this extent. Thinking of this, a hint of excitement suddenly appeared in his eyes. Running the True Destiny solution in his eyes, he began to observe his body carefully to see if there was any hidden danger due to the integration of the spiritual polymer. But soon he found that there was no problem with his body at all. A mysterious light faintly diffused from the deepest part of his cells. It was a light of the essence of life, which seemed to be enhanced, and every cell in his body was full of spirituality. That is to say, as the spiritual polymer is integrated into the body, the essence of the living body will be enhanced, and the body will seem to become more perfect. The human body will be more or less affected by external factors during its growth. Eventually, the genetic expression of the body will be affected. From wisdom, appearance, skin, bones, muscles, internal organs, lifespan, etc. All will be disturbed by the outside world during the growth process. This spiritual polymer seems to be able to adjust this influence, so that the deepest genes of the human body can be perfectly expressed. The more spiritual polymers are integrated, the more perfect the gene expression should be, and the stronger the essence of the person's body will be. Then what will happen if enough spiritual polymers are finally integrated? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt a kind of restlessness in his heart, and he felt that he seemed to have discovered a secret. He had more expectations for spiritual polymers. Soon he came to the place where the second group of spiritual polymers fell. This is in a community, and a group of colorful light sources fell in the central green belt of the community. At this time, there were two figures fighting here, both of them were masters of the human immortal way. One seemed to be a martial arts practitioner, and the other seemed to be a weird person. The practitioner was dancing with a green sword in his hand, just like a sword fairy dancing with a sword. The sword energy was flying, covering a 3-meter area, firmly blocking the weird person, so that he could not move forward half a step. The weird person was filled with a faint dark green light. Dark green smoke tentacles spread out from his body, attacking the practitioner from all directions. But his dark green-black smoke tentacles were a little fragile in the face of the sword energy, and they would be cut off every time. But these dark green smoke seemed to have a wonderful ability. After being cut off, they would quickly return to the body of the weird person. This made their battle stalemate, and no one could do anything to anyone. Lin Yi's arrival immediately alarmed them, and the martial arts practitioners and the weird person immediately stopped the battle and quickly retreated. Their eyes were fixed on Lin Yi, because Lin Yi was filled with an aura that made them feel pressured. Obviously, the opponent's strength was above theirs. With a common hatred, they directly locked their hostility on Lin Yi. Choosing the lesser of two evils, they planned to join forces to deal with Lin Yi first, and then compete for the spiritual polymer. But Lin Yi would naturally not let them do as they wished. The spiritual wave was injected into the summoning album, and 4 black smoke slowly floated out, turning into his 4 summons. The breath of the 5 immortals wafted from Lin Yi and his summons. The 2 people in front were immediately shocked, and they couldn't believe their eyes. The martial arts practitioner's voice was a little dry. "Your Excellency is so strong, but you still come to compete with us." The strange person who measured people on the side also shrank his pupils, and he seemed to think of something at this time. Lin Yi, the owner of the Wanchaiwu. Hearing his name, Lin Yi couldn't help but look at this strange person. "Do you know me?" "Of course I know you. Your name is also very famous in the weird side. How can someone who can defeat Mobi be a simple person?" "Since it is Mr. Lin in person, I admit that I am no match for him. I will take my leave now." After saying this, The weird side person did not drag his feet and turned around and left here. After hearing what the other party said, the master of cultivation sighed slightly and turned around and left here. A smile appeared on Lin Yi's mouth. He did not expect that he had picked up another spiritual polymer for nothing. He walked over a few steps and took the second spiritual polymer in his hand. After the spiritual polymer touched his palm, it quickly spread into his body. Then his eyes saw that his life essence was blooming with a brighter light again. At this time, the brilliance of this life essence continued to flow out of the cells, covering every structure of his body. He looked more like the immortal in the Eastern mythology and legend. A slight rhythm was occurring between his cells. This rhythm is causing subtle changes in his body, making him look more coordinated. Bones, muscles, internal organs, every cell in the body has become more perfect. He thought to himself, the changes in my body have begun, and I don't know what it will look like in the end. He could feel that the spiritual polymers integrated into his body had not reached their limit. There was even a desire in his body, hoping that more spiritual polymers could be integrated into his body. Without any hesitation, Lin Yi chose to follow his instinct and began to look for the third spiritual polymer. His speed was very fast. He knew that as time passed, the spiritual polymers would become less and less. Not only was he pursuing this kind of thing, but more and more people were looking for it. There were endless masters hidden in the Red Lotus realm, and they all came out at this moment of great change. He quickly reached the location of the third spiritual polymer. But this time he did not go directly there, because there were 7 or 8 immortal level masters fighting there. Seeing this scene, he was a little shocked. He did not expect that there would be so many strong people gathered in this Red Lotus city. There were 7 or 8 immortal level masters in this situation, both on the martial arts side and the weird side. If he broke in, he would immediately become the target of public criticism. After thinking about it, he turned around and walked towards the direction where another spiritual polymer fell. At this time, the entire Honglian city was in a state of chaos. The earthquake also affected this place, and many houses collapsed. The police officers and firefighters in Honglian city were running around to put out fires, rescue people, etc. And almost everyone avoided these places where the battles took place. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 320. In this unknown state, ordinary people don't want to be implicated. Soon, Lin Yi ran and unknowingly came to Dongjia Park. This is the direction where the largest piece of spiritual polymer fell that he noticed. That piece of spiritual polymer is at least several times the size of the 2 pieces of spiritual polymer he got. At first, he had been heading in this direction, and the first and second spiritual polymers were just spoils of war that he harvested along the way. When he came here, his eyes fixed. 3 mysterious people appeared here, and they were all dressed very strangely. One of them was his old acquaintance, Xuanhuan, who had many intersections with him. The other one was a woman, wearing a plain white colorful feathered dress, holding a snow-white sword in her hand. The whole person was shrouded in a faint chill. This chill floated around her, surrounded by clouds and mist, making her look as beautiful as a fairy in the sky. Her face was beautiful and cold, without makeup, but her skin was as white as ice, and she was a natural beauty, with only a blue mark on her forehead. The other person was wearing a black robe. He held a black gukkan in his hand, and the whole person was filled with a dangerous aura that was difficult to describe in words. And in the center of them was a group of spiritual polymers that was 5 times the size. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, and he looked at the 3 people with an indescribable surprise in his eyes. The power fluctuations in each of these 3 people reached about twice their own. According to the information Lin Yi got from the Imperial Martial Arts Research Institute, the power of these 3 people has undoubtedly reached the limit of the human body. The human body has a limit to the power it can carry, and no matter how powerful the skills are, it cannot get rid of this limit. Even if they are the third level of the human immortal, their simple bodies can only reach this point. This is the result of the physical limit of human beings. 3 top masters of the human immortal path. Even if I use all my summons, I can only deal with one at most. There is a reason why Lin Yi thinks he can deal with one. His earth seal combines the power of the true life root, which can exert tremendous power. It is no problem to match the top combat power of the human immortal path, or even exceed it. As long as he finds a flaw, he can also kill the master of the third level of the human immortal path. However, those who can enter this level must have magic weapons on their bodies. So his summons are necessary to create flaws for him. After seeing the scene in front of him, he was thinking whether to intervene or change his target. After all, it is not an easy task to seize the spiritual polymer under the eyes of 3 top masters of the human immortal path. At this moment, the mysterious man holding the Guqin looked in the direction of Lin Yi. Since this friend is here, come out. There's no point in hiding. Or, do you think you can benefit from us? The other 2 also looked in the direction of Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little surprised. How did this person find him? After thinking for a while, he walked out openly and looked at the 3 people. I don't know what to call you 3. When Xingyuezi saw Lin Yi, there was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. He suffered a great loss from Lin Yi, and he still remembered it vividly. This is a coincidence. You came to my door. I'll see who can save you this time. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Lin Yi was already on Xingyuezi's must-kill blacklist. Originally, he just didn't have time to deal with Lin Yi. This time, the other party came to his door, and he would not let Lin Yi escape again. Thinking of this, his eyes looked at the man holding the zither and the woman in white. You two, let's kill this uninvited guest first, and then we'll have a fight. Don't let this guy think of taking advantage of the situation. It's better to deal with a rubbish-like person first. When he said this, his eyes were cold and he looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He could naturally sense Xingyuezi's naked malice. This guy always comes to provoke me, and now he still doesn't give up. Do you really think I'm easy to mess with? I couldn't find you before, or I was not strong enough, but now I'm not afraid of you. Thinking of this, a cold light appeared in his eyes. Really? Want to kill me? I'm afraid you are not qualified. As soon as the voice fell, the figures of the 4 summoned creatures appeared in front of him. At the same time, the earth-suppressing seal floated out of his clothes and appeared behind him. The true source of life was activated, and countless energies quickly gathered on the earth-suppressing seal, turning it into a small golden mountain. A huge danger emanated from Lin Yi's body. The 3 people who were watching him all had their pupils shrank and sensed the danger. That is a truly fatal threat. Their eyes swept over the 4 summoned creatures in front of Lin Yi, and a hint of wonder appeared in their eyes. The man holding the Guqin was particularly interested. Interesting, 4 strange creatures that can be summoned, each of which can rival the level of the human immortal. You should be the legendary owner of the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi. I heard that you got the core strange object of the strange illusion last time, and even forced back the genius MOBI of the white gloves. Lin Yi looked at the man holding the Guqin with a strange look in his eyes. It seems to me that you are practicing strange power? I don't know which organization you belong to. The man holding the Guqin showed a hint of surprise in his eyes when he heard Lin Yi's words. He didn't show any strength at this time, but the other party could see through his foundation. This kind of vision is extraordinary and cannot be achieved by ordinary people. You can actually see my roots. It's really amazing. Let me introduce myself, I am Tai Chin Lun of the Weird Association. He glanced at the 3 of them and smiled slightly. Well, although I am very interested in this spiritual source, I am not determined to get it. Take a move from me. If you can catch it, I will leave on the spot and won't fight with you anymore. Anyway, there are many spiritual polymers in Red Lotus City, so there is no need to separate life and death here. Tai Chin Lun seemed to be very free and easy, describing his ideas in an understatement. Then he took action directly without waiting for others to agree. I saw the gukkan in his hand lying flat, plucking the strings with his right hand, and the next moment, an earth-shattering sound boomed out. A terrifying and strange force filled the air, transforming into a three-headed huge black Buddha that was 5 meters high. Crossing a distance of more than 10 meters, he arrived directly in front of the three people. These three black divine Buddhas have a huge aura, and each one seems to be a real divine Buddha. He slapped the three of them with a palm.